my name is Emirae and this is Safi, and we are gonna do a reaction to a Wansee entertainment video, and the video is called, one second, the video is called 7 Horror Stories Animated. So this is the compilation of October 2018. And without further ado, let's get into this video right now.
I am in my mid-40s. This is what happened nearly 20 years ago.
I love how the beard and the mustache kind of
One day I visited one of my friends at his apartment, which was very old and shabby. There was an entrance to an elevator in the center of the corridor. I can't remember well, but my friend lived in unit 701 or 801 on the 7th or 8th floor. So looking at the apartment building from outside the main entrance, his house was on the far left end. One summer day, my friend said he was alone and didn't have any plans. So we called 2 of our friends and had a drinking party. The 4 of us had been drinking since the early evening, and just before passing out, we all lied on the floor, turned the lights off, and started talking. While talking to each other, a beam of street light entered through the window and was shining on the ceiling. I guess the street lights on the first floor of the apartment complex were on. Of course, we were talking while gazing at the ceiling. All of a sudden, the white ceiling turned black, as if something covered up the light. At that moment, we looked out the window while crouching down. Someone with a creepy vibe was hanging on a steel bar outside the window. Since the light was shining from behind that person, we could not see his face clearly. Then, after making an unidentifiable gesture, he smiled, showing his white teeth without making a sound. We were so shocked at that moment that we stopped talking and were frozen in silence. Suddenly, one of us picked up an empty bottle of wine and ran toward the window shouting,
"That's smart to
kill
do,
that
don't
bastard!"
Run to the window. Don't
but
run
the creepy
out.
guy
Why
had
did you run?
disappeared.
That's just stupid.
After a few minutes, we went out of the apartment to see where he had gone, but we could not find him. We could only hear his stomping footsteps and assumed he entered the corridor and went down the stairs. Going down the stairs is the only way that stomping sound could be made. It sounded like he descended to the first floor and was walking around, so we followed down the stairs looking for him, but quickly returned to the apartment, still filled with fear. At first, we thought it must have been a robber or some crazy guy laughing in front of the window.
From an asylum or something.
But when we came back to our friend's house, we were all shocked. The distance between the end of the corridor and the window of our friend's apartment was too long for someone hanging onto the steel window bar to jump across. Only a crazy person would try and fall to their death. Ordinary people can't even hold on to the steel bar. We thought that maybe someone had committed suicide by jumping from the roof of the apartment and caught the steel bar while falling. So we went down to the first floor to see if a body was there, but there wasn't a single trace. After that experience, I never visited his house again.
Epic Phil.
I am a
he looks like the
19-year-old
lizard
male,
in the Spider-Man movie.
and this happened many years ago.
What is his name? Doc Connors? I think it's Doc Connors.
To give you an idea of the layout of our house back then, the living room has multiple windows that directly look out onto the back garden. There's a big gate in our driveway to stop anyone from getting in. Next to the living room is the kitchen, which also has more windows, but also the back door. This will be relevant to the story.
This will be relevant to the story.
So my mother was completing the household chores as she does one day.
Yeah, I think it's
I
the
was
mother.
sitting in the living room watching television on the sofa with my back to the living room windows. All of a sudden, I saw a figure reflecting off of the picture frame hanging on the wall opposite the window. I asked my mom if my dad was back from work.
But why
to
did
which
your
she
mom
said
leave
no.
the window open?
I'll never ever forget the look of horror on her face When I told her that yes, he was, he's in the garden, she looked outside the window and almost had a heart attack when she saw a scruffy-looking but fairly built man outside the living room window. Why does this look like a woman? This didn't seem to faze him at all, though.
Yeah.
He psychotically smiled at my mother through the glass, and my mom asked him what he was doing on our property.
Call the police.
He said nothing, with the same sadistic smirk on his face. She said that she was going to call the police, and what he said is one of the scariest things I've ever heard. He screamed at my mother through the glass that if she even got her phone out, that he would break the glass. She did not know what to do. She paused and tried to rapidly think of what to do next, how to keep us both safe. She wanted to protect me by calling the police, but she also didn't want him to hurt me if she did try to call them. As soon as he saw that she was terrified,
he ran for the back
door. Luckily, it was locked because my mom has always been a paranoid person.
That's good. Some paranoia is healthy.
He screamed at her to let him in, or if she didn't, he'd find a way in and kill us both. My mother told him to fuck off, which enraged him, and he pulled out a pocket knife and began bashing hard against the windows. I was still oblivious to what was happening, as I just thought it was my dad. I was very young. My mom frantically grabbed me, and I don't mean picked me up. She literally grabbed me off the sofa and booked it up the stairs. We were backing up in the upstairs hallway, looking for anywhere to hide, when my mom's younger brother popped out of his room with his headphones on. My mom didn't even realize he was home, and he clearly didn't hear the commotion downstairs because of his headphones. My uncle was 25 at the time and was really well built. He's intimidated a lot of people. My mom cried and told him that there's a guy who's trying to break in. While she's telling him this, that creepy lunatic screamed from downstairs that he was in the house. He said cynically, "Boogeyman is coming out to get you," which really freaked me out. It freaked me out so much that I actually remember it to this day. Anyway, since the guy didn't know my uncle was home, he kept yelling and telling us to come out and that it wouldn't be painful. My uncle told us to lock ourselves in the bathroom and call the police. We did, and after 5 minutes of groaning and blatant violence downstairs, the police stormed in and found the guy bloody and my uncle on top of him, beating him mercilessly. My uncle really didn't hold back. Turns out that he was a known pedophile, which is why he was watching me for so long while I was watching TV. After that day, my mom was terrified to be home alone at the house. I loved it as a child because I found the running and hiding fun. Obviously because I was young. I can never thank my uncle enough for being there at the right time when my mother clearly forgot that he was still home. It honestly gives me chills.
That's why I'm really one of those guys that truly says that it's the best when you can go and work out. You know what I mean? You have a big body, you can kick some ass. Even if you don't have a big body.
I work at a pizza joint in Chicago, and I unfortunately have the shitty responsibility of delivering pizzas, usually on the weekends, and usually at night.
It's quite shitty.
I've asked my boss for day shifts, but she seems to ignore my requests and give me whatever shifts I don't want the most. I know being a pizza delivery man is somewhat of a dangerous job, but I never imagined anything like what happened to me a few months ago could actually happen. There is this one customer that always calls in and acts strange as hell on the phone. Sometimes he will just hang up on you. Sometimes he'll order pizzas normally, but make crazy sounds while he does, and then hang up. We've always thought this guy was just an idiot playing pranks. He would make really weird comments too, like, "I want to order a large pizza with pineapples, mustard, and your skin." I'll never forget that one. We usually just hang up on his ass now, and we always know it's him calling because his number is saved in our system. So we called again a few months ago and ordered a pizza normally. No bullshit, no weird comments or sounds, and gave his address too.
And
I thought it would be interesting to finally deliver to this guy, and when I drove up to his house, it was something you'd see in a scary movie. An old as hell looking place right on the line where we don't deliver, not in the busy part of the city where most of our orders come in.
Why did you go anyway?
The house looked like it was about 100 years old, and there were no lights on that I could see. I wasn't scared or anything, just looking forward to seeing what he looked like. When I went to the front door, I rang the bell, but it wasn't working, so I knocked. I realized I forgot the guy's soda and thought he'd give me shit for sure, or just freak out on me. Nobody answered right away, so I knocked again on this big door. He opened up after that second time. He was wearing this weird-looking mask around his mouth. Only his mouth. His eyes were opened wide, and I told him how much the pizza was, and that I was sorry I forgot the drink. He looked down, I think, and then said, "It's okay," and then looked at me again. I stood there looking at him for like 5 seconds in silence when I got bored of his shit and told him the amount again. He said okay, and then asked me, "Has anyone ever attacked me before?" I told him no, and if they did, they'd be sorry. He then took off his mask that was covering his mouth, and he had big-ass scars all around his mouth. I have no idea what they were from, and can't even imagine what they might have been from, but he looked seriously messed up. He smiled at me, and his lips were all cracked. I noticed he wasn't about to hand me some money, so I told him I was leaving. I turned around and started walking down the steps, and he screamed at me and slammed the door. This bastard was crazy, and I don't think any of his shit was to be funny. That final scream he gave me was creepy as hell, even though I kind of expected him to do something like that. He has called several times since then, and we always just tell him now that he is on our no delivery list.
That's good.
He usually just screams and hangs up, or cusses out whoever is on the phone.
Oh no, that is a no-no. That is a no-no. Why haven't you guys done anything about it? That's just stupid.
I was on summer break and went camping with my friend and his parents. We went to the lake during the day and did the s'mores thing at night. His parents shared a tent while my friend and I had our own. I can't remember where the campsite was, and I'm not really in contact with my friend anymore. But 15 years later, I'm assuming it wasn't the safest place to camp. Here's why. I woke up sometime in the early morning, like 3 or 4 a.m., and immediately saw a man's face looking in the tent at us. He had unzipped the door just enough to stick his head inside. He looked absolutely insane. He had big eyes and wild hair. I was so stiff from fear, I literally couldn't do anything. The man kept moving his head from left to right, very, very slowly, as if it was uncontrollable.
Where are your parents?
I guess my friend could hear me breathing loudly or something,
because
he woke up too.
Their tent like
he had the same reaction as me, and just laid there in terror, looking at this mysterious man.
I'm not judging your parents, but
I'm not certain how long he was sitting there looking at us, but it felt like hours, shaking his head back and forth. At some point, we heard a noise close by, and so did the man. He disappeared quick, and a couple minutes later we got out of our tent and woke up his parents. The guy was long gone. I'm still afraid of camping to this day.
Well, yeah, that's what happens. So with the whole parents thing, why, I don't get it. Why is the tent not next to, why is the parents, their tent not next to the kids? Like, it needs to be next to them so that they know what's actually going on. And honestly, I'm not telling anybody what to do, it's your kid, but I wouldn't take my kids camping, especially at night. Or I at least would not take them camping at night, because the things that can happen it's insane. So I wouldn't take the chance to do that at all. But hey, I get it, you know. I get it. It's completely okay to take your kids camping and all that kind of stuff. The guy with the pizza, you know he's creepy. Why don't you report him to the police or something so that they can check him out? He's probably a serial killer. The first story, I would do the same thing that he did, of not going to that place ever again, because there's some creature or whatever lurking around, and that's not somewhere I would want to be at. The one with the little kid, where the guy was like a psycho and he's trying to break the glass. I'm so happy that there was a buff uncle right next door, right in the other room, listening to music. He didn't even realize what was going on. It's like something told him to get out of his room and see what's going on, because his two family members are endangered. Somebody wants to break in, somebody's trying to come through the back door. He needs to make sure they are safe, and he needs to go kick that guy's ass. He needs to teach him a lesson for coming into other people's houses without knowing them in the first place. That's just terrible. And he's staring through the glass at this kid. That's messed up. I want to kick his ass myself. But anyway, these things always like infuriate me. But other than that, this was a great compilation. We're gonna make this a two-parter. It's gonna have part 1 and part 2. So be ready for part 2. I'm gonna upload part 1 at this moment while you're watching this, and you will see the second part after a few days. He's saying that's a long time, but it's good that there's some space, you know, then people can truly anticipate the video. So yeah, it does take time to edit and stuff, but then again, this one doesn't really take a lot of time to edit. But we'll see you in the next creator reaction, and stay tuned for the other one. Bye.